And the key to it really is understanding the investor mindset. Investors want to know 4 things, and really the last 2 things on this slide are, or on this point, are the most important. What security is being offered and how they're going to get their money back. And then you can start talking about the other 2 things. But they also need something else. They need 7 hours, 11 touch points, and 4 locations to achieve something called zero moment of truth. And zero moment of truth is something that you guys may or may not have heard of, but it's based on some research that Google did about the way that people buy in the digital age. And really, to explain that, I need to talk about the model that people the marketing model that this was based on. And so it was based on a model that was used by Procter & Gamble to model how people bought products before the internet came along. And essentially it was this. Somebody would have some sort of stimulus. They would be reading a magazine, they'd be watching something on TV, they'd see an advertisement, or they'd read an article about something, and they'd say, I want that thing. It might be a TV or a car or some service or product, or it might even be an investment. They would then go to the shop, they'd have a conversation with a salesperson, and they'd usually end up buying that thing from the salesperson that they spoke to. And that point at which the person bought, Procter & Gamble called the first moment of truth. The second moment of truth was when the person went home and used that product. And customer service, or the experience that somebody has when using a product or service, has always been very important in selling products and services. People, even before the internet came along, believe it or not, would go and talk to their friends about the experience they'd had with a product. And so that was very important in building up the reputation of that product or service. And so the research that Google did was around the way in which people actually buy now in the digital age. And so today when we buy something, if it's a major purchase, we don't just go and buy it in a shop. What we generally do is when we have the idea that we're going to buy something, we go off and we start researching. And so what Google's research was about the amount of research that people needed to do and the way in which they did it in order to get to that point where they made a decision to buy something over the internet. And they call that zero moment of truth. And what they found is that people needed to do 7 hours of research, on average, over 11 touch points. And a touch point is a piece of content. It's a blog or a video. It could be a review on a product. It could be a post on social media. And that needed to be over 4 different locations. A location could be a physical location like a shop. It could be a website. It could be a social media channel. It could be another website like YouTube, before they got to the point where they were ready to buy. And actually that second moment of truth, the experience that person has in using the product or service, actually feeds into other people's zero moments of truth. And so if you're crowdfunding, you're going to be raising money over the internet. Crowdfunding is an internet-based activity. And a decision to invest in something is basically the same as a decision to buy. Google also did this research on investment products. And so it's critically important that what people find when they Google you, if you're aiming to crowdfund, is reflective of who you are and the experience that you have, so that people can get through that 7 hours, those 11 touch points, and those 4 locations that they need to get to in order to make a decision to actually invest in your project. Essentially what that allows people to do is to get to know, like, and trust you over a digital platform. The other thing that's important in that, and there are a number of formulas for trust, but this is a very simple one that I use. Trust is consistency over time. That content needs to show that you have a record of being consistent over time and that you've delivered the things that you said that you would. The other thing is that if you're talking about what you do online, you need to have a very good understanding of why you're doing what you're doing.